Welcome to stage 3 of the Postman Pat 3D game tutorial. The end point of this, what we're working towards, is making our Postman Pat truck have textures on. So finding pictures from the internet and applying those pictures to the 3D model. So before we start, you're going to have to find a picture of Postman Pat from Google Images. I copied and pasted mine into PowerPoint. And then I just copied and pasted another version of it and flipped it over. So I've got one pointing from both directions. I mean, ideally you'd find different pictures of Postman Pat's van from different angles, but that's quite hard to do on the internet, so I've just taken one and flipped it over. And you need to be able to find one from all angles. I couldn't find a picture of Postman Pat's van from the back, so this is the closest I could find. So either you search for them or you could screenshot this video and just copy and paste this. I put them into PowerPoint, but you can of course do this in Fireworks or in Photoshop or whatever you're most comfortable with. The important bit is though that once you've got it, you save it as a PNG or a JPEG. So in PowerPoint I went File, Save As, and saved it as a JPEG file. Okay, so in Blender, let's get to the point we got to at the end of the last tutorial. The end of last tutorial we just had solid textures, so solid materials, a red material for Postman Pat's van and a black material for all of the tyres. We need to change the view, and there's all sorts of different views that you can work with in Blender, and we're going to work with UV editing. So UV is a little bit like X and Y. If you're plotting a graph on graph paper in a maths lesson, you've got X going across and Y going up. And in 3D space, you've got X and Y and Z. Now with textures, it gets a little bit confusing because you want to be able to get a flat image. So in our case, we're going to load, so image and open image. We're going to start with this Postman Pat image here. So this image has got X and Y coordinates, but those X and Y coordinates might be completely different to the X and Y coordinates in 3D space. So you get around that problem by just calling them U and V. So U is the new X coordinate and V is the new Y coordinate. So the clever bit in 3D graphics is called UV mapping, and that means mapping a UV image, so a flat two-dimensional image, onto a three-dimensional surface, either a curve or a flat bit of space. It's all done, it's some quite complex maths that actually handles it. It's usually done on the graphics card, but we don't have to worry about the maths of it. We just have to tell Blender how to do it. Okay, so to get started you'll need to select the body of the Postman Pat truck by right-clicking, and we'll go into edit mode by either pressing tab or go in edit mode down at the bottom. And to begin with, we want to get the 3D view matching one of these things here. I'm going to do the one on the left first, so you can zoom in as you can on the 3D view with your mouse wheel, or you can hold shift and pan across, shift and move your mouse wheel. So I want to get this view in here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's much easier if the angles are right. Next, you'll notice on mine I can kind of see through the model. I can see the stuff in the background. I've got X-ray mode on, or sort of limits selection to visible. I want to make it so that I can't see through it, because I want to be able to select just the visible faces. Now faces are either triangles or rectangles. Remember, vertices are points, lines or edges are lines between the vertices, and a face is like a rectangle or a triangle between lots of vertices. So I want to just select the faces that you can see. So I'm going to press A to select nothing, and then B to box select, and drag a box over everything. And that should select just the things that you can see. So if I go around here, that face, that face, that face isn't selected, that face isn't selected. It can be easier to see this if we go to face select. So instead of now trying to select vertices, you can select whole faces in one go. So sorry, let's do that again. B to box select. I've got all of these faces selected, but I don't want any of the ones round the back. Like so. Good. So these ones aren't selected. These ones are. Once you've got them lined up with this picture, you can then go on unwrap. And there's all sorts of different ways of unwrapping. Unwrapping takes a 3D model and unwraps it onto a 2D surface. So we want to unwrap it from the view, from the 3D view. Zoom out a little bit, and then we get to see where all of these faces were on here. So you can then grab them, so press G. Notice that the keyboard shortcuts work on whichever part of the screen that your mouse is over. So if I press G over here, it would move that. If I press G over here, it would move that. I didn't get the view matched up very well here, so if I change it over here and try and unwrap it again, it's a little bit better but not great. This time I'm just going to right click to select individual vertices and grab them. So right click and G to grab. This is where we started with a really simple 3D object with not too many vertices. You can imagine doing this on a more complex model takes time. So right clicking and pressing G to move all these around. And if on the right hand side of your screen you change it from solid to texture, you can see these textures being applied in real time, which is really quite clever. So as I select that, right click and grab it, you can see the texture changing on the right hand side of the screen. Right click G, right click G, right click and grab. So that will have got the textures for only the sides that we can see. If I scroll around here, these are still white. So this time I'm going to get the other side of the van, try and get the same view that I can see on this picture, and this time I'm just going to right click and hold down shift to select these three faces, 1, 2, 3. It's a bit irritating that the image disappears. We can bring it back up by clicking down here and selecting the image again. And I'm going to unwrap these three faces. So unwrap, project from view, G for grab and move them over here. I'm going to have to tweak them a little bit again. So right click on each vertex, oops, grab them, right click, grab, like so. And that's got most of the faces now, apart from the back and the bottom. I'm not too fussed about the bottom because we're never going to see it in the game, but I do want the back. So it's the same sort of thing. Let's get the texture image all lined up. Let's match it up on the 3D view. Right click, hold down shift and right click to select the faces we want to map the textures to. Make sure the image comes back on the UV editor and unwrap the mesh to the texture. So G for grab, move that over here, right click and grab. Takes a bit getting used to, but it's actually quite satisfying to see the textures appear as you do this. Okay, so that should be all of the textures on the Postman Pat model. I'm going to press Tab to go out of edit mode, and make sure that when you're previewing it you go to textured view rather than solid view, and you'll be able to see all of the textures on your 3D model. You can of course find a picture of a wheel if you particularly wanted to, but in this tutorial I'm just going to keep it really simple and have solid black wheels.